Well, hello to people listening. I suspect you came so quickly because you were on the previous stream with Khaled on whether money can buy you happiness. And of course the quick answer is up to a point. Money is an objective measure of success, I might argue, because you can easily tell whether one number is higher than the other, and it gives us a sense of satisfaction to be able to so quickly tell who is richer than the other without any complicating factor about, for example, whether the wealth was honestly gained or how long it was kept. We just want things nice and simple, and numbers are a very quick way of showing, who is more and who is less. And I think this is one of the great attractions of materialism. But of course life is more complicated than that. And at the end of the previous stream I was talking about happiness. So we may enjoy short-term happiness, immediate gratification by doing whatever we really want to do at the time. For example, to have sex with somebody we shouldn't have sex with, or to say mean things, or even steal or kill, or do something regrettable that at the time we thought was a good idea. And so when we try to acquire happiness, or more to the point, prevent acts of folly from causing us long-term unhappiness, we have to consider the wisdom of what we are doing, and of course the next question to ask is, what is wise? What would be wise is to not be punished, and obviously if we are criminals, we're going to get punished if we park in the wrong place, if we go above the speed limit, if we tell lies, the usual things, then we get into trouble. But sometimes we are conflicted, sometimes we just want to do this thing, and maybe our emotions make us feel that we are right, or the emotion is irresistible, and we do something, and it might turn out okay, or it might be regrettable. Or if it's regrettable, we could learn from it, because what can we do about our mistakes other than to learn from it? So I think the most important question to ask ourselves is, well, does God exist? And it's only when we know for certain that we will feel happier to obey his laws. And if we're not certain, then we will be conflicted between fear of being punished by the government or whoever, as opposed to saying what we believe to be the truth. And acts of censorship are about stopping us from saying the thing that we feel to be the truth. I think most mental illnesses are caused by neurosis. Neurosis is when you are conflicted. You want to do this thing, and this and you're not supposed to do it, and so you can imagine an oscillating fan, perhaps, that you will forever be oscillating between wanting to do something and knowing that you mustn't do it, and it may never be resolved. And of course you want to know at the end of your life whether you were right to have done it, or wrong to have done it. So that and this confusion, this doubt, is cause of neurosis and unhappiness. So today I was discussing with a few people about what ought to be done. And we have reached a stage of being told that the truth is heresy. But this is not a new thing if you're Christian or come from a Christian background, because it's the Trinity that has caused a lot of undiagnosed mental illness. So those of you who know about theology will know that the Trinity is this absurd idea that Jesus is also God. And this absurdity is hard to believe, and people get upset if they're told to say something that they don't believe in, or worse, what they feel to be nonsensical, and they feel that in order to enjoy a decent life they have to, go along to get along and pretend to believe in a lie and an absurdity. And this isn't just about one person's life, it is about many, 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 many generations of Europeans. In the recent coronation of King Charles, I discovered that he is the 62nd English monarch, which is quite a few monarchs, quite a few centuries of officially believing in nonsense. And this is a terrible thing, and has caused great unacknowledged neurosis in Western man. This may explain why they literally cannot even get themselves out of this tailspin of confusion and neurosis and psychosis. So on the one hand, they know what the truth is, and on the other hand, they dare not say it. And this state of mind can be equated to being in a revolving door, just going around it forever and ever, never being able to make up your mind whether you want to stay inside the building or go outside, and you will just keep going round and round and round in the revolving door until, I guess, one day you drop dead, and it's just a matter of luck, which whether you're in or outside the building when you finally drop dead. Now, if you did believe in God and the afterlife, then you would be prepared, I think, to make the sacrifices that are required to be made in order to martyr yourself. You think you're right, you think you're going to be punished for saying what you say, but you say it anyway, and you get burnt at the stake, but you're okay because you think you will be rewarded. This was, basically the whole idea of the martyrdom of Christ. But Christians, who are mostly, or even all hypocrites, refuse to talk about this. So if you really believe that you're going to heaven when you die, then you shouldn't be, afraid to die, and therefore you would be afraid. You would welcome all these opportunities to show your conviction and defy the worldly authorities that threaten or bribe you to do the wrong thing and say the wrong thing. And today also I discovered, well, no, I didn't discover, I did know about this psalm in the Bible that I think quite a few martyrs would have probably recited to themselves as they were burnt at the stake, or stoned to death, or about to be beheaded or something of that nature. So this is Psalm 23, verse 1 to 64. So it says, Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. So this is the citation of martyrs. Jews are supposed to martyr themselves. They even have a term for it called Kiddush Hashem, and it means sanctification of the name of God. And it's basically saying you're dying for God in order to show you your conviction in the truth of his, in the wisdom of his laws and the wisdom of his laws and the certainty of your martyrdom being rewarded. So let us examine what it really means according to Wikipedia, and it says Kiddush Hashem is a precept of Judaism in rabbinic sources and modern parlance. It refers to private and communal conduct that reflects well instead of poorly on the Jewish people. Martyrdom during persecution is called sanctification of the name of God. The ultimate act of sanctification of the name as a Jew is prepared to sacrifice his life rather than commit idolatry, sexually forbidden acts such as incest or adultery or murder. So Jews are supposed to choose death if asked to bow before idols, convert to Christianity, told to commit sexually forbidden acts such as incest or adultery or murder. So that's what they're supposed to do. And presumably those who really believed in the afterlife, if they were certain of going to the better place, they would happily allow their lives to be distinguished on a matter of principle. Now, I think a lot of people, Jay in particular, he doesn't really have principles. He has a vague idea about what it would be like to have principles, but he can't quite get it together to actually say, to speak truth to power. That is his problem, and it is also the problem of many men who are atheists and nihilists, who don't believe in God, but at least they have at the back of their mind the idea that to claim to believe in God would acquire them a higher status than to say that they do not believe. So we have to accept that there will be lots of people who claim to believe in God, but do not in fact believe in God. They do it only to raise their own moral status, but they are hypocrites whose final destination is hell, according to the Quran. It's not enough just to claim to be a Jew or a Christian or a Muslim, because just your hypocrisy alone is enough to send you to hell. So if you're a Muslim and you don't do what you don't obey, if you don't follow Quranic principles, you find all kinds of irrational and irrelevant excuses not to do what your beliefs would logically make you do, then you are a hypocrite, and your final destination is hell, which will be an unhappy ending to your short or long life. So problem is that we will never know if God exists. Oh no, okay, if God exists, we'll know after we pop our clogs that he does. And we will, when we will be told whether we go to the better or worse place. But if God doesn't exist, then we will never know, because we might wonder before we die, and then we pop our clogs and that's it, and a veil of unconsciousness ends our life forever, and so we will never know, and we will probably just die wondering. What is the problem with this? Actually, it doesn't really matter if you're thinking of the greater good of your group, because if you accept that your group will be better protected by people believing in God and the afterlife and acting according to the laws of God, then your society will remain in existence, because people who believe in God will marry and have legitimate children and try to be good parents, and will end up having better quality children than atheists and nihilists who don't marry before having children, who are bad parents, who don't have enough children, or whose children are badly parented and badly educated, and who won't themselves marry. So obviously there's going to be a huge difference between a nation that practices marriage and a nation that doesn't. You can imagine what would happen to your society if people just stopped having children. The average age of your nation would rise and rise and rise until until it became 80, until the average age of everyone is 80, and you would be able to deduce that such a society is close to death, and everyone around them, who any country around them, would know that a country with the average age of 80 is ripe for plunder and invasion, and that would be the end of your civilization. It's very simple, really. So these things are a logical certainty, and this would validate my proposal that marriage should be practiced and supported by law, and this can only be properly done by a religion with the best available, which has a holy book that is the best available guide to humanity, and following its laws would have the effect of keeping your group happy and glorious and in existence from generation to generation, with its citizenry trusting in its government to govern in the national interest. And this would be the state of a nation that is in good health and has a future to look forward to. But judging from everything that is happening now, it appears that the opposite is the case. And obviously this will make a lot of people unhappy and fearful of the future. So I only have nonsensical tweets nonsensical posts in my live chat. I'm going to go back to the chat that the live chat in the previous stream, and I'm pleased anyway that I got Khaled to agree to discuss idolatry, because Ulrich Wolf said Khan does not quite understand why idolatry is a bad thing. He's a Hindu, so I guess we can Hinduism is idolatry, and therefore he would like being told that the Abrahamic God disapproves of it. I know there's some move to kind of get certain kinds of Hindus out of this category of being idolaters, but it's not enough to say, oh, I don't really worship idols. As a Hindu, I think of Atman and Brahman, and let me look up what Atman and Brahman is. I can't quite remember. So Atman is the universal self, identical with the universal core of the personality that after death either transmigrates to a new life or attains release from the bonds of existence. So I think it's the soul. And Brahman, let's have a look at Brahman. I mean, that's quite similar to the Abrahamic religions. So Brahman is the highest universal principle, the ultimate reality in the universe. In major schools of Hindu philosophy, it is the immaterial, efficient, formal, and final cause of all that exists. So, it's a kind of Hindu version of the Abrahamic God. It is the pervasive, infinite, eternal truth, consciousness, and bliss, which does not change. It is a cause of all changes. Brahman, as a metaphysical concept, refers to the single binding unity behind diversity in all that exists in the universe. So I think Brahman is the creator of the creation, and Atman is the universal soul. But these concepts are a bit unwieldy. The Abrahamic religion is explains it a lot better. So we can either choose to believe or choose not to believe. Obviously, nobody is going to change our minds, even if they were in charge and were totalitarian. We would, in our own minds, we could, in our own mind, dissent from the prevailing orthodoxy. But back to the question of happiness. I think doubt is the emotion that causes most unhappiness. I think loss is even less distressing than doubt, because doubt you don't really know and you worry and it keeps you up at night. But loss is, yes, you will cry about it for a bit, and then you will accept that you've lost this thing, and you have, and you're not hoping that it will be revived or anything like that. So it is doubt that is the source of so much neurosis and inconsistent behaviour. So obviously, if your government is reasonably competent, it should be running the economy well enough for most people who want to become married parents to become married parents. But our economy is not being run on these lines, are we? It's run according to... It is run as if the matriarchy was just shutting everything down, closing everything up, telling everyone to get into their coffins and then nailing them one by one. Now, Jane made, he assumed that I'm unhappy. I don't feel unhappy. I'm quite content, really, doing what I do. I actually think it's a privilege to do what I do. I see the neurosis in so many men who can't do what I do who can't say what they mean. And it becomes actually a pleasure to be able to speak clearly in a way that gets me described as dangerous. This happened today, and actually I was quite gratified about it. I don't think that the person who called me dangerous meant I was, violent or anything. I think he just meant my ideas are dangerous to the liberal order, and that pleases me because I have said countless times already that Christo-liberalism is kaput and should be replaced. So for people to acknowledge that secular Quranism is dangerous is a compliment indeed, even though I'm not getting many royalties from it. In fact, Amazon don't even honestly tell me how many copies are being sold, but never mind. So Ulrich Wolfhead Khan said, I meant that real Hinduism does not worship idols. There is only one God, but others always class Hinduism as idol worshippers, and the no-height laws may also do the same. Yes, they do. So somebody asked, what does secular Quranism mean? And of course it means Sharia for non-Muslims. So instead of talking about my happiness, let's have a look at what would make Jay happy. And he says, I believe in the nation state and approve of limited immigration that is a benefit to both country and the immigrant. Yes, I mean, obviously, I would agree with it too. But why aren't we getting it? That's because we don't have government in the national interest, because we don't have a ruling class that is not incompetent and corrupt. Why do we have such an incompetent and corrupt ruling class? It is because we don't have an official moral system. Sorry, we do have an official moral system. In Britain we do. The official moral system is Anglicanism, but the problem with that is nobody really believes in it, and that is why it has to be replaced. So you can't have a moral system that isn't enforced and whose principles cannot be stated by anyone. So we've got into such a bad state that even the king doesn't know what he's supposed to be doing. We know, some years ago he said, I think it was in the 80s, he said, I don't want to be defender of the faith, I just want to be a defender of faiths. And I'm sure people who understand a bit of this country's history would just sort of inwardly cringe, because the whole point of the state religion, i.e. Anglicanism, is to support the divine right of the monarch to rule. So when Charles said, I don't want to defend the faith, I just want to defend the faiths of all my subjects, he showed that he didn't understand the basis of the monarchy. So that should be a bit dismaying, but he perhaps he's never told. I mean, it's such a terrible thing to be told that really Christianity was only ever used to support the divine right of absolute monarchs to be absolute monarchs, and it hasn't done that. It doesn't support the the right of the absolute monarch to remain an absolute monarch, and it certainly didn't support the right of Charles I to keep his head, and it doesn't. It hasn't supported the existence of Christendom, and Christendom is a word to Christendom is an abbreviation of the word Christian kingdoms of Europe, and Europe is mostly post-Christian. When you think of the most powerful monarchy, the French monarchy that was overthrown in the French Revolution, followed by, in quick succession, really, the end of Germany as a monarchy after the Second World War. Let me just check. With the end of Germany as a monarchy. Monarchy of Germany. It ended in 1918, and in 1917 the Russian monarchy also ended when the Romanovs were collectively, the entire royal family was executed. So Christianity has not protected, supported the divine right of kings to rule. So the most powerful monarchies in Europe, France, Germany, Russia, all gone. Yes, I know there are a few, there's one in Sweden, there's one in Denmark, there's one in the Netherlands, and of course there is the British monarchy. But the point is that Christianity has not supported monarchy. It has utterly failed. And that is why it is an anachronism. And that is why those who still claim to be Christians will not be happy. How can you be happy if you're clinging to a religion that is clearly anachronistic and should have been acknowledged as having failed a long, long time ago? Of course it would make you unhappy. And obviously all this stuff going on about the pro-Palestinian marches is another sign of failure of Christianity. Let me just finish going down all the posts in the last stream. So Ulrich doesn't quite get it about idolatry. So it's not just a matter of, we still worship the same God, don't we? The same creator God. It's like, no, you're actually paying the opportunity cost of not being rightly guided by the Quran. If you're saying, oh yes, I believe in this, Brahman thing, and because the Hindus really have no book of rules, and the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, and all that, they're not a book of rules. And we already know that India is a twice fallen civilization, and if the Indians knew what was good for them, they would adopt secular Quranism with Indian characteristics and do better for themselves. So one of the things that J. Walker said is, all you have to do is knock on the door of Jesus and he will answer and restore you to sanity. And it's like, well, he's talking nonsense, isn't it? It reminds me of a song, knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. But that's well, you shouldn't have to knock. It should be already opened. Well, if you're entitled to admission. So Jay is an idolater because he thinks Jesus is still alive. And if you think Jesus is alive, you think he's immortal. If you think he's immortal, you must think he's divine. And if you think he's divine, you're guilty of idolatry. And Jay doesn't really care because he doesn't he doesn't take the Ten Commandments seriously, which is evidence of his hypocrisy. And yes, he is always complaining about immigration and wondering why his country is infested by foreigners, and it's because his countrymen don't practice, maintain, or protect the practice of marriage. And that's why things are getting worse and worse. Right, so I have finished the posts from the previous stream. So Christine Ramsey is Catholic and wants to repeat the absurdity of the Trinity every day, and she thinks this act of idolatry will make her happy, but I think it will just deepen and widen the curse of God. And finally, we have Ulrich Wolf said, Khan saying, Mammon is a jealous master who leaves no room for any other. So thank you for referring to what I said at the beginning about why numbers on your bank account is an objective measure of your bank balance, and obviously if your bank balance is bigger than another person's, then you're richer than him, and it's a nice, neat way of deciding which of you is richer, but to quantify which of you is happier or worthy of admission to the better place in the afterlife, that is in doubt, and it is doubt that distresses and dismays us. So I wanted to finish by saying that yes, we can only serve one master. What's the correct expression? No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. So, not a good idea. I suppose the idea is really to serve only God and obey only His laws. And hopefully, if all goes well, you'll go to the better place, and that will make you happy forever. Thank you for listening.